Yeah. Okay. So basically, I've just showed you how to work it by hand. Okay, Kavan, I will attempt to post some of the work. Here's the problem. If I do all the work and then post the slides, I've basically showed you how to do every one of these problems. You'll just circle the right answers, send it in as submitted, and not do it yourself. So when you ask me to send this, I don't want to give you all the answers. I want to show you how to do it, but then I want you to do it yourselves because there's no learning in just copying down, okay? So that was how you do it by hand. How you really can do it is just turn all these into a y equals, put them in Desmos one at a time, and when this graph lays on top of one of these four, you know you have your answer. So let me show you how that works. We already said the answer was D, right? So I'm going to put this in Desmos. I noticed I was playing with it this morning. I'm like, why is it not graphing? You have to say y equals. And I didn't, it's not on this. So you actually have to go into Desmos and say, it won't graph it if you don't say y equals. If you just do this part without the y equals, you just get an expression with one of those triangles that says, sorry, I don't like this work. Let me show you what it looks like. If I take off the y equals, I get the triangle, and the triangle says, you know what? You didn't really make an equation, so we don't know what to graph. But if I go back and say, oh, hey, y equals, now will you graph me? It says, yes, I will graph you. Now remember, the next four graphs, and you can look and compare, are the answer choices. All I had to do is say y equals in front of all four of these choices. It will not graph it if you don't say y equals. So let me just go back and say type in y equals, y equals, y equals, y equals, because that's how it knows how to graph it. Now, one at a time, I'm going to turn them on. When you find the graph that matches the blue graph, we have found the answer. Yes or no? Chat me so I know you're awake and listening. Keep coming. Yes or no, people. Did that work or not? I got 3 ladies answer me, and it's always the same 3 who turn in their homework. 4 ladies. Kaylee Brandon, did that work? Did blue match green? Right, correct. That's not right. Let's try this one. Does the purple one work? Right, you guys can see what's going on. You see what I mean by you can do this? Yes or no? How about this last one, which we said was the answer? How come it's not showing up? There you go. See? So I had to turn the blue off to see it. It's actually there, but I had to turn the blue off in order to see it. Why did that not go first? It should have said. So that's how you do these. I mean, honestly, this is a test handmade for Solomon. Is Solomon with us? Yes, this is a test. It's almost like they said, oh, there's a gentleman out there who loves Desmos. I think we'll make a test just for him. So this is a Solomon test, okay? That's how you do these. You merely look for the graphs that match. Okay, now I'm going to keep all these equations for the next one. So then the next one on the list says, what is this solution? Where do you think I'm going to go for this solution? Desmos, correct. So that one, and it has to have X's in it. So if they use an M or a T or a W, remind yourself that they're trying to trick you into thinking Desmos isn't, your Desmos is broken. I don't even see my graph. Like if I change this to a, well, first let me turn it on. Okay. So if I change this to a W, nothing. If I change it to an X, something. Can you guys read the answer right off this graph? Where it crosses the x-axis for any equals graph. Yes, it's that easy, guys. Do you see how we answered that just like this? Of course, I already had the graph in there, but you guys will be able to do this. Okay, I want you to relax. I am telling you, I have taught you this material and I've taught you the nth degree of how to solve for it. Test day is one of those days where the city wants to know, do the kids know what they're doing? And I think you guys do. So I'm showing you all of the easy ways to do this. So we're 2 down, 18 to go. So far, everybody with me? Okay. So here's where it gets super ugly. I went ahead this morning and I put all these graphs in knowing how long it was going to take. This one took me a while. So you put the first one in. That, by the way, that dot is a multiplication dot. So you always put in the original graph. And you know what I had to do in front of it? What do you think I had to do in front of this first fraction? Y equals. Very good. You guys are catching on. Oh, I did not do y equals. I wonder if it changes if I say y equals. Go back. Let me see what happens if I say y equals. Oh, I still get it. Okay. So then one at a time, I graphed the next four, 1, 2, 3, and 4, until I met the green graph. Okay, and I'm not going to go through all mine. I know I did it right. It's up to you to go back and even if you miss the smallest thing, like you forget a squared or you say plus 2x, everything has to be perfectly exactly matching the equation here. Okay, for some strange reason, I didn't have to say y equals, but I'm going to go back and say y equals just because I don't want you guys thinking I lied to you. So it'll still graph if you say y equals. There we go. So one of these four will match. I am not about doing it all for you because if I had to take about 10 minutes to do this, you can take 10 minutes to do this, okay? Is it? I don't know. I would have to turn it on to find out, and I'm not going to turn it on. I will send you the answers. So here's what I'm going to do. Kavan, Kaya, all of you who want to know, did you get it right? I'm going to go ahead and send the 20 question answer solution to you. What I'm not going to allow you to do is copy those down and resubmit it as if you've done all the work.
Wait, send it after. Send it after we finish the class. Because I want you to know that I actually got the answers by myself.
Okay. All right.
It's harder, like it's harder for me to write on a computer. So for the stuff that I don't have to write, I don't want to have to write. So if that's what's gonna take for me to not have to write on this computer and for it to look all wonky, then I'm fine with that.
I hear you. And you know what? I'm fine with that too. If I feel you know what you're doing, I'm going to be happy when you show up tomorrow. Don't forget, this test is tomorrow. So we've got like 0 time in between now and then to get all this done. So honestly, this is really about you guys going through the motions and getting these questions done and not even really stressing yourselves. You know what this is. This is a factor, cancel common factors. This is a very difficult problem to do by hand. This would take us a half an hour. But when you graph it, it will not. Don't forget, that's a multiplication dot. So when you go to multiplication, make sure you use the, where's my multiplication symbol? You use the little X here, and that will give you a dot instead of an X, okay? Don't use the X letter. If you use the variable X, it's not gonna multiply for you. Okay, so you guys can do this. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's gonna be graph this. Well, what do you think I'm gonna do here? I'm not giving you the answer, Solomon. I don't, what do you think the answer was, Solomon? Yeah, Alicia, but what's the difference in this problem versus the last problem? What's the one small difference that will keep some students from getting it right and most of them will get it, and a lot will get it wrong? What must you adjust is the question. How do I adjust this so that it'll graph in Desmos? Yeah, the M isn't gonna graph. You've got to change all M's to X's. Yes, so let me make a note there. Please change all M's to X's. You know what? I'm going to type because I'm with Kaya. It is wonky. Please change all M's to X's. Okay. You guys are you're gonna nail this, okay? Because this is the hardest of the hard. This is the lesson in that chapter that was the hardest of the hard. This was the LCM lesson where you had to find the least common multiple. You are gonna grade, I am gonna grade this review because I need to know that you went through the answers. I know, I hated this too. I am with you. This was my least favorite lesson to teach. And it's the hardest of all of the Algebra 2 lessons to get right. But when I show you how to do it in Desmos, and I'm telling you, it's an easy question to get right, if all you do is remember to graph and change all your variables to X. Okay, you can say Y equals, but make sure all your variables say X. It's a lot, right? I'm telling you, I got up this morning and I graphed only half of these problems. I was like, I can't do anymore. This has been an hour and I'm still graphing. So notice what I did. This is that problem, but I said 5 minus X over X squared plus 6X plus, and I probably should have said Y equals. Okay. And then I did each one of those 4 answers below. This is the -2m one. And this is the, you see what I mean? It's tedious. Oh, but did you guys know you could do this? You can say, you can drag across it and say copy and then drop down to the next box and say paste. Did you know you could do that? So if you have the same denominator, look how it's the same denominator here, 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 and here. So instead of doing it all 4 times, you can copy and paste and then just go in and change the top one. So that does save some time. I know what you're saying, Solomon. It's going to take a while to graph all these, but use all your shortcuts. Like, I don't know if you guys have a copy paste key, but my MacBook is Control-C, Control-V. So I don't know if that's universal across all devices, but
It's the same thing for it's the same keys for our Chromebook.
I thought so. I thought so. Yeah, I know it's different for screenshots, but for copy, it's almost always Control-C and Control-V. So you can share, you can say shave some seconds off by doing that. Again, I want you to graph in Desmos, then graph, I should say. So whatever lays on top of the original one is the answer. So you guys are going to ace this test. Okay, now here's one about circling all the factors. So this is a select all. And if you get 2 of the 3 right, you still miss the question. So it's really important, you know, first of all, remember the universal, not universal, the fundamental theorem of algebra, the FTA. It said if you have a 3rd power polynomial, you need 3 answers, 3 factors, or 3 X values. So I should be looking for 3 X values. Sometimes 4 if they separate the, it's the whole top row. Are we sure? Wow, somebody's telling me it's the whole top row. So if you graph it in Desmos, look what I did. I took this and I graphed it in Desmos, and I'm showing you my picture. So the graph crosses at 0, 0, 0, 2, I'm sorry, 2, 0, 2, 2, I'm sorry, yeah, 0, 0, 2, 0, and 6, 0. So those are your X values. So I say, remember, this is important, guys. You're going to half listen to this and get it all wrong. You say X equals 0, X equals 2, whatever the X value is, that's the number we're focusing on, and X equals 6, but that's not a factor. A factor, you have to bring this number to the other side and then wrap them in parentheses. So this would be X minus 0, but X minus 0 is just X. Okay, and this would be X minus 2, and this would be X minus 6. But notice that the X is joined by the number 3. What is the 3 in this? It's the GCF, right? So that 3 is the 4th factor, but they merged it with the X and made it. So don't forget there's a GCF, and that's where kids go wrong. If there is a GCF in the problem and it's like sometimes what they'll do is they'll say X here and 3 down here. And if you circled the whole first row, but you forgot the 3, guess what? You missed the whole problem. So they were nice in this problem. They never do this to you guys. They always make the 3 all by itself. So don't leave out GCFs. So I'm going to write that little note right here. Don't forget to circle GCF. Okay, because sometimes they separate it from the X and they'll have a 3 off to the side. And that's how students miss these questions. And I'm like, how did they miss it? Oh, the GCF. Okay, so I think we've answered this one pretty well too. Here's another one. So you guys should be able to do that. I'm not going to stay on that too long. This one wants to know how the parent function changes when you go to here. So put the parent function in black. I always like parents to be in black because they're the serious function. So we're going to make this guy black, right? Why is that green still up? And then put the other function in any other color you want it to be. Okay, so here's what you're focusing on. How does one graph move from the other? Well, I'm going to focus on a point on the parent function right here on the curve of the top branch of the black function. And I'm going to go find that point on the other function. It looks like it's right here. It's the same curve, but that point moved here. So here's what you can say. If it went from 1, 1, notice I'm not saying, oh, here's the solution. We're not doing a system of equations. If it went from 1, 1, where's the 1, 1? There it is. To 3, 4, it must have gone up 2 and to the right 3, right? So it jumped up 2 and right 3. I need the, there we go. So we went from 1, 1 to 3, 4. So it went up 1, 2, yeah, it went up 2. No, I'm sorry. Here we are. It goes up 1, 2, 3. It goes up 3 and over 2. So right 2. I got my numbers backwards. Sorry, guys. It goes up 3 and it goes to the right 2. Okay. So it's right there in front of you. You just have to graph the two and say, oh, I see. It's going up 3 and not left. It's moving right. Okay. Again, Desmos is going to answer 90% of these questions for you. Which could be the graph of this function. So I'm not going to show you. I did graph them already. But what you're doing is you're looking for one that crosses the y-axis at 2 and kind of hugs the x-axis. So there's going to be some graphs that look really close. Don't stop short and say that one's good enough. It kind of looks like it. Make sure you graph all 4 of them before you choose which one is the closest to it, because this y-intercept has to be spot on. So your graphs, and there's a question just like this on your test. So your graph's y-intercept has to be in exactly the same spot as the right graph. Okay, it can't look similar. It has to be exact. And then these, you guys have not done a whole lot with logs, but all you have to do is type the word log in Desmos. Just type log and it'll give you a log graph. So let me, y equals log x minus 3. So all you have to do, and then you close your parentheses. Make sure your parentheses are included too. If parentheses must be in the problem. So all you have to do is actually type the letters log and you'll get the graph. So again, remember I said this y-intercept has to be exact. All of these graphs look kind of close to it. Green and purple look exact. We're very close to it. Which one is the closest, do you think? Yes, I agree. I think the green graph is the closest to the blue. The purple one kind of looks like it, but it's not quite right. So make sure you graph all of them before you decide which one it is. Yeah, exactly. So there's the answer to that question as well. This one takes a whole heck of a lot of work, so I'm not gonna stay too long on it. You guys have to learn to graph your own. This one, identify the function that belongs to the parent. Okay, so now this is a funky question. The parent must have 2 branches that do this. It could be anywhere on the grid, but they must have 2 branches and they must do this. Okay, so if you look, let me go to that question. Let me get rid of some of my other graphs because I got too many graphs going here. Does that have 2 branches? I don't even know if this is the right question. I kind of feel like I'm on the wrong question. Let me see. No, I'm not on the right question. Let me go to the right one. Okay, that one has 2 branches. That one has 3 different branches. That one has 2 branches, but they don't look right. They don't have the same asymptotes. The X and Y axis should be asymptotes, and this one has this shooting off into space in a different direction kind of thing. They have to look. Which one was it? They have to look like this black graph. So take your time and make sure it has the right branches and they hug the X and Y axis, because otherwise it's not in the same function. All right, what are the vertical and horizontal asymptotes? I think we're going to be able to graph this. So if you guys want to go ahead, this is where I stopped. I started graphing everything, and by 12, I was like, I am exhausted. So if you guys want to graph this and tell me what you think it is. I will pause on this long enough and you can tell me which one you think it is. Yes. Yes, Simone. Yes, Solomon. So notice when you graph something, they don't put the asymptotes in there for you. Your eyeball has to find where you could slide a line in between the graphs horizontally and vertically to tell me where those asymptotes are. So you won't have the dashed lines show up. That's right, guys. Those of you graphing it, you are absolutely right. So yes, everybody's getting it right. Yes. So notice what I did, if I can just get my thing to grab it. I actually put dashed lines in Desmos. You can actually say y equals and x equals and then check to see if you're right. And if you're right, it will not touch the branches. If you're wrong, it'll cut through one of the branches. So that's how you do asymptote questions. You just graph this and then try saying x equals -6, y equals 3, and seeing if they touch the graph. If either one of these lines touch the graph, it's not an asymptote. Okay. Okay, end behavior. We do need to discuss end behavior. So I'm going to go graph this. You guys graph it too. -2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 1. -2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 1. Minus 3x squared plus 1. Okay. So this is a great question because it's really a vocab question. It's not hard at all. You just have to look at your graph and say, hey, where is the graph going on the left and on the right? So on the left, it's going to positive infinity. You just look where the arrow points. It points up to positive infinity. And on the right, it points down to negative infinity. So now you've got to figure out which one of these matches that wording. Let's see if you guys got it right. So as x approaches negative infinity, that means as x goes to the left, where does the y one go? It goes up, doesn't it? And then as x approaches positive infinity, as x goes to the right, where does the y go? It goes down. So as x goes to, oh, all of these start off as x goes to negative infinity. So we're not even interested in this side, are we? Yeah. Yep. So it's all about the graphs, baby. It really is. And then knowing what your vocab means. So end behavior, and this is one I want to draw to your attention. End behavior means y values. What is the y values doing? Okay, so end behavior means where does y go? Okay, and you can see it because of the answers. They're telling you f of x or y. Okay. All right, 7 more questions and a half an hour left of class. So how are we doing? Are you guys feeling a little more confident about this test? Okay, good. Anybody other than Emma? Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, and again, this is the famous 22.5-week test where they don't expect a lot of good scores. They even said so in our department meeting. They said, we're not going to get good scores. And I'm like, well, if the kids know what they're doing. All right, so find the X and Y intercepts. You know what an X and a Y intercept is, right? So that's an easy one. You just graph, and you can put in f of x or y equals, it doesn't matter. 2x minus 1 over 3x minus 4. Turn off your other graphs. And then just find where it crosses x and y. It's that easy. I mean, it's not, there's nothing magical about it, guys. Where's that graph I just did? Right here, right there, right there. There it is. Okay, so you're basically, I think what they did here is they threw two things, vocabulary and fractions at you, because they're hoping you guys can't read an x and a y axis between the integers, but you guys can read between the integers, right? My scale was off. I wish I had done that in a better scale. Let me make it bigger. No, they're still giving me the same thing. Oh, there we go. And you guys know you can zoom in and out, right? So that's another thing. A lot of people are like, I couldn't find my graph. Hit the home button and then use your keypad to go in or out, or use the plus or negatives to go in and out. So always go home for a graph you can't find. Like sometimes the answers will be 66 and you're not seeing anything because you're just in the 0s to 10s area. So sometimes you have to like slide your graph over to see what's going on. Oh, look at that. That's very asymptotic. Okay. So everybody good so far? Because we only have 6 problems left to do. Yeah. Again, okay, inverse questions mean this. I'm just going to show you my graph. Okay, so I needed to first find the original, and I guess I did. I guess the black is the, no, it's not. Okay, the blue is the original. So the blue is the original. And I always for an inverse question, I put in y equals x because I'm looking for the symmetry across that line. And if you don't see it, you won't see the symmetry. So I always put in the y equals x, the original graph, and then you're not allowed to type a -1. So don't even try it. Just say y equals again. So I've tried an F inverse. Desmos is not happy with that. So if I said F raised to the -1 x, it immediately says, are you crazy? What are you thinking? I'm not going to do that. So I just go back to y equals. Okay, it'll be happy with y equals. All right, so do not attempt to type in a -1 because it's not going to be happy and it's not going to give you a good answer. All right. So that's basically what you're looking for, guys, is symmetry across y equals x. So let me add that to your type y equals x in Desmos. Look for symmetry across this line. So a lot of this is vocab. They know you can go to Desmos, but when you get there, are you going to know what an inverse function means? It means it's symmetric across y equals x. So a lot of it isn't even really hard math. There is a way to find this out. Okay, you could switch x with y. Remember, this is y, and then solve for y again. So if y is over here, you have to solve for y, and one of these 4 will be correct. And it takes a while to do that. Or you could just graph in Desmos until you find this perfect symmetry across the line y equals x. Okay. All right, composite functions. I love a good composite. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to type in f of x and g of x. You cannot name them the same function. They must have separate names. If they both have the name f of x, then Desmos is like, which one did you want me to use? So we're going to go to all this stuff. I can't see what I'm doing. We're going to say f of x is 7x squared minus 11. How come I'm not typing? Oh, because I'm typing it to Alicia. Sorry, Alicia. That last chat was meant to be a Desmos. And then g of x square root of 5x minus 1 minus 2. And then you can type on the very next line, but it has to be under f of x and g of x because it always looks up. Desmos looks up to see where your f of x and g of x functions are. Oh, and if there's any other f of x's, it's going to say which one. So I'm going to have to go back and change these to like t of x or something. It's going to say f of g of, and I'm not going to put the 3 in because I'm going to give you the answer. But if I said f of g of 5, okay, so it's struggling because it doesn't know where I want my f of x function. So instead of saying f, I'm going to say m of x and n of x. And then I'm going to go back and say m and n. If I wipe out all these, I have to retype them for the next class and I'll be exhausted. So that's not the answer. So don't copy it down because you're looking for f of g of 3 and I gave you f of g of 5. But it will give you the answer that easy. You don't have to do anything more, but make sure you type this in correctly. Don't forget your squares and don't forget your square root. And this -2 needs to be outside of the square root. So as long as you type everything correctly, you can say f of g of 3. Notice I didn't give you the right answer, so I didn't want to give it away. And there you go. There's your composite. And you don't even need to see the picture. The graphs aren't even important in this question. All that's important is that you type the first 2 functions right and then you plug in for the third. Okay. So composites are easy too. I mean, I'm not kidding, guys. This is a pure Desmos test. All vertical asymptotes, I would graph it, and then I would one at a time graph x equals -1/3, x equals +1/3, x equals 8, x equals -9, x equals +9, x equals -8. If any of these graphs touch this graph, scratch them off. They're not an asymptote. Asymptotes can never touch the graph. Okay, so let me write that down. Try each graph. See if it touches the original. If it does, it can't be an asymptote. That's one of the best words in the English language is asymptote. Okay, so again, you're going to have to spend a little time graphing and then do one at a time, do all 6 of these. Okay, and it says circle all. And remember, if you miss any on the test, you miss this entire question. So there's 5 points down the drain. So please do take the time to do all 6 of these. Okay, you must do all 6 or you're going to miss one of the questions because I'm pretty sure since that's a squared, I'm pretty sure there's more than one asymptote. And usually when it says circle all that apply, there's at least 2 answers. There's almost never, I saw an SOL once where it said circle all that apply and there was only one answer and I thought, oh, how could they do that to the kids? But usually there's 2 or more answers when it says circle all. You guys want me to pause on this one or can we move on? Because there's something I got to show you that's going to take about 15 minutes. Sorry, Alicia, I did not mean to send that to you. Okay, and you know how to count X and Y intercepts, right? And please take your time to zoom out a little bit in case there's one up above. So like if the graph, this is my freehand drawing, it's pretty bad. If the graph does something like this, there's another x-intercept out here that you can't see. So make sure you slide your window over. So I can see one y-intercept and two x-intercepts here, but then a third way out in space. So make sure you're not missing any, because that's another way to do it. All right. So again, graph, 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 and we come to the question that takes a while. Okay, so this is the one I need you guys to understand. This is not hard, but have you ever built a table of values? Good. So you guys know where it is. So in Desmos, when you open up a brand new tab, there is a plus symbol up above. So for that plus symbol, I can actually choose a table and it will let me put all of those points in. So I'm going to put in 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to the whole ordered pairs I have. I can't use a blank spot, so I'm going to stop at 5. So I'm going to put in 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in Desmos. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to put in the y values, 235, 213, oops, 213, 217, 247, 303, and that last one is 385. Yes, you need to be up at 10 for the test tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to turn off all the other stuff I have in Desmos, so if I turn it off, you won't see it. Now, I'm going to turn this guy on, and I want to see those dots. Well, I don't see those dots because they're way up in the y equals 2 to 300 range. So what I want to do is hit my home button. No, I'm sorry, not my home. There should be a zoom somewhere. It's like off the page. Oh, here you go. See down here, the zoom fit? It will go find those points for you. If you don't see them, because I don't see them, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know I put them in. You have to do this. And there they are. Okay, it jumped to where they were, so I didn't have to go looking for them. And that zoom fit, now if I went back home, I go back to the origin. And then I say, oh no, I lost my points. Go back to your zoom fit again. And there they are. So one at a time, I'm going to plug these in. What am I going to replace the W's with? X. And guess what the answer will be? It will be the graph that slides through all of my points. So it's a 90-minute test. So I'll meet you at 10, and by 11:30, I don't have time to stay after late for those of you who show up an hour late thinking I'm going to sleep in and then she'll wait for me. I need to feed my mom, and then I need to be back online tutoring because I've got other students taking other tests, and they definitely need to see me on tutoring. So there's only 90 minutes. That's why I said 10 o'clock instead of 11. I'll meet you from 10 to 11:30. And then if you need me, come back at my tutoring at 12:20. So if you don't finish, I'm still tutoring that day at 12:20, and I'll open the test window back up for you, but I need you to be in the room with me while I'm still live. So once I leave the test at 11:30, you won't see me again until 12:20 if you need it. Okay. But can you guys see how it takes a little bit of time to put this in? But this isn't an hour test. This is not a 1 hour test. You should be able to do it in less than an hour, I'm thinking. So if I just said y equals, let me see what some of these are. Y equals 13x squared minus 32x plus 255. Y equals 13x squared minus 32x plus 255. Okay, that's close. Do you think that's the right one? No, it needs to slide through these dots. And this is a little too high. So maybe if I said instead of plus 255, I said plus 251. Nope. Plus 250. Nope. But anyways, one of these four is going to slide through these dots. And the other three won't. Okay. And if it's one of those where it doesn't pick up every dot, but it picks up most of them, then you're going to be able to say, how did that happen? Oh, because I said 25. Then you need to make sure that it slides through most of the dots. The answer is the closest graph to all my points. And this one's close, but it's all above it. Okay, so this is really not going to be too terrible. Let me see what's the last question. Oh, okay. So if you have factors, now this is one where you can graph it if you want. You can actually graph all four of these and see if they all cross these four zeros. But really what they're saying is this. This is a zero. A zero means x equals. A factor means x plus 2 because you bring the 2 over to this side, the negative 2 over. Okay, so I know it's got to have a factor of x plus 2. Well, I didn't answer your question because every one of them does. This is a 0, this is a 0, and this is a 0. So each of them will have factors. If all you get is x equals 0, your factor is just x. Okay, because it could be x minus 0, but that's the same as x, isn't it? So this is not one you should miss either. Okay, I'm done. I'm going to stop recording. Hang on a second. Stop recording.